Okay, good evening, and thanks so much for coming. Last December, a wonderful calendar was sent to my office. The calendar contains more obscure holidays and special recognition days than I had ever seen before. Naturally, my two favorite special recognition days pertain to cats. Check this out. April 27th, Hairball Awareness Day. I'm certain that none of you acknowledged that day last month, and in truth, nor did I. And my inspiration for speaking this evening was yesterday, May 30th, Hug Your Cat Day. Where is it? Where is it? Hug Your Cat Day. Okay, we got it. What a nice, simple, and wonderful idea. Let us not take our cats and the lives that they share with us for granted. So my topic this evening is environmental enrichment for you and your cat. What I will be discussing is how to improve your cat's physical and emotional health and how to better your relationship with your cat. My presentation tonight will emphasize basic cat care, some of which you may not be aware of, and how some simple changes in addition to your home will make your cat happier and healthier. I am certain that none of you have ever heard of Roger Pannerman of Cornwall, England. Any takers? Bingo. And until 2 years ago, I confess neither did I. He is a veterinarian and a behaviorist, and during a 5-month period, he spent more than 360 hours, just think about this, during the daytime observing and following 5 female cats who lived outdoors. He classified their activities into 7 categories. Okay. This is how they spent their day: sleeping, resting, hunting, grooming, traveling, feeding, and other. Other is basically scratching. These are the number of hours they spent every day. He followed these cats. Okay, we can criticize Dr. Pannerman's study for only including female cats. Males were not included. And we also can criticize him for observing them only during daytime, because we know cats are more active at night. They're nocturnal. Yet to me, he is a hero for his study. Let me explain why. Now we're going to try and apply his study to indoor cats. Okay, indoor cats have no need to hunt or to travel. So if we take hunting and traveling and add them together, we get cats that either sleep or rest 19.65 hours a day. That's what most of our cats do. Nearly 20 hours a day, 80% of their time they spend sleeping and resting. Clearly, this is a bad scenario. That's why we need to enrich the lives of our cats so they don't sit around and be inactive nearly 80% of the time. Okay, let's look at a brief video. Okay, so the obvious question is, what's wrong with this lion?
He's bored.
He's bored, right. There's nothing for him to do. He is bored stiff. He doesn't hunt. He doesn't patrol his turf. He is bored. His life is empty. So now I got a question for you. How do you enrich the environment of a lion? The answer is very carefully. Okay. All right. Sorry, I couldn't resist. There is a myth that many people believe that cats are low-maintenance pets. And if you believe that cats are low-maintenance pets, then both you and your cat are not getting the most of your relationship, and your home environment truly needs enrichment. If you're looking for a low-maintenance pet, try fish. And parenthetically, your cat will find a tank full of fish wonderfully entertaining and enriching. And by the way, fish tanks are also known as Cat TV. I guess I must state the obvious that you do need to protect your fish from your cats. Many years ago, I made a house call for one of my clients here in Queens. I walked into this man's apartment, and in the middle of his living room, I was really shocked to see a very large children's wading pool filled with more than a dozen koi or carp. And I must tell you, his cats were truly engaged and entertained. However, if you choose not to have a pool in your living room, there is an alternative. These are real. You can buy these, and your cats will appreciate them. All right, let's go to the basics of cat care, or what I call the cat's Bill of Rights. But first, 2 quick digressions. First is the rule of the number of cats plus 1. This is not advanced math. This is simple. If you take the number of cats in your house and you add 1, that's the number of basic resources your cats need. In other words, if you have 3 cats in your house, you add 1, you need 4 litter boxes, 4 water bowls, and 4 food bowls. This is real important. Digression number 2. I don't know who conceived of the rule of the number of cats plus 1 equals the number of resources needed, but that person had no idea of how small or congested New York City studios or apartments really are. This is my favorite. What's the square footage on this? 78 square feet, contrasted with Gracie Mansion. So these ideas that I'm calling a cat's Bill of Rights are ideals, and some of these ideas can be very doable for some of us, and for some of us, these guidelines are not so doable, yet we do need to strive for them whenever possible, especially if you have more than 1 or 2 cats in your household. Okay, so we're going to start with the cat's Bill of Rights, numbers 1, 2, and 3. These are the basic resources, the big 3 basic resources. In the real estate business, what is the famous expression regarding real estate? Okay, yes, location is of critical import to your cat regarding the big 3, food, water, and litter boxes. Cats in the wild, eating and drinking and eliminating are the most dangerous times for them. This is when they are most vulnerable to their predators. If you watch films of cats in the wild, you will see them every so often looking up and checking for predators. So when you are feeding a group of cats in your home, don't light up the food bowls next to each other. Try and separate them as much as you can, either in the same room or in other rooms. Again, this is important. This is cute. This is a kitten who couldn't care less what the big older cat's doing to him, but this cat is upset with the kitten. This one's a more important slide. We have 4 cats. If you look carefully, there are 4 bowls. This cat doesn't have access to a bowl. He's being excluded by the other cats. Take pictures of your cats eating if you have multiple cats, and look which cats are excluded. It's a very interesting thing to do, because this cat's being prevented from getting at a basic resource. Okay, for water bowls, the number of bowls isn't as critical as the number is critical for food dishes and litter boxes. What I would suggest is that cats like moving water. So in addition to a few strategically placed water bowls, a water fountain or 2, or some sort of moving water is a wonderful perk for your cats. In our office, we often see our cats lined up impatiently waiting for us to turn on the water, or alternatively, waiting for a turn in our water bowls. These are the top 2 cats in our pecking order, and they're waiting, and once you turn it on, sometimes there is a problem. Litter boxes. Okay, can everybody read that? Never ever think outside the box. Except I will show you a good exception in a little while. The number of litter boxes available and their location is really of critical importance. More than 10% of all households have cats with elimination problems. And the greater the number of cats in the household, you guessed it, the greater the percentage of cats having elimination problems. Most often, the cause of these issues is insufficient numbers of boxes or poor location of the boxes. Much, much less often the cause is boxes that aren't cleaned often enough. Okay, we all aware today of the issue that some children face in school, the issue of bullying. Well, a similar issue exists today in our multiple cat households. Nearly all of these households have a pecking order. And at the bottom of the pecking order are one or two cats that we call pariah cats. These are the cats that are at the bottom of the pecking order. We live in perpetual fear of attack or being blocked from their essential resources by the top cat in the house. There's a great expression, please forgive my crude language, I know we're here in a church, that says, when your pants are down, you're in a very vulnerable position. So when a pariah cat is going to or from a litter box, they are really very vulnerable. They are afraid that the top cat may attack them, might block their way to or from the box, or even just give them a threatening look to intimidate them. Now we need some participation. I'm going to show you 4 scenarios of litter boxes. I want to know what you think the best and the worst ones are. This is a New York City apartment with a litter box shoved under a small sink in the bathroom with one door on the left and not much room on the right. I realized it just before. We'll digress for a second. It's right next to the toilet. Imagine the cat in the box, and all of a sudden the toilet is flushed. What's going to happen? The cat's spooked, and he may not go back to the box again. Anyway, this is scenario number 1. This is scenario number 2, a box out in the open in a busy living room or parlor room with many objects in the room. Next slide. This is a schematic. We couldn't find an empty room. On the left, there's a litter box against a wall in an otherwise empty room with one door. On the right, there's a litter box in another empty room with one door, and the box is sitting right in the middle of the room. Any takers? What's the best scenario and what's the worst scenario?
The one against the wall is the better one.
Correct. Of those 2, it's the better one, but overall it's not the better one. Any other takers? Okay, let's go back to the first slides. This is the better one, because a cat approaching this box or leaving the box has many options as far as its route. It's not at the prey or the mercy of another cat. This box has only one exit and not much room around it. Let's go to the next slide. The litter box in the middle of the room, the cat has no safe haven. The only way is out the door, but there can be cats anywhere around that can go after and intimidate the cat. The cat with the litter box on the wall is better because on one side, he or she has no fear of predators. Is that clear? Okay, next slide. This is a clever company. The name of the company is Meow Space. And what they've done is they've created isolation units for cats in the house that are being intimidated by other cats. The cat has to wear a collar, and there are 2 ways of doing this, either with magnets or with electronic devices. The only one that can get into that through that portal is the cat that's wearing the collar with the electronic device. Wow. That's very clever. Don't ask me the price tag. I am sure it's out of sight, but they have a website. And clearly, what they're showing us and telling us is there an issue, that there is an issue with bullying. The cats can't access their basic resources. Okay, in the old office many years ago, we had such a pariah cat. Anybody want to say what the pariah cat's name was? Come on, employees. Matt knows. Miss Hoppy. Miss Hoppy was a solid black cat. See the picture? Remember her? She had a safe and secure place on a countertop. She ate there, drank there, and spent 99% of her time there. You see the food dish? See the water dish? This is where she lived almost all the time. And usually twice a day, she would survey the room and check out the location of all the other cats. And when she thought it was safe, she would jump off the counter and run quickly to her litter box and do her thing and run right back to her safe spot. Not a great lifestyle. But then when we have too many cats, this is often what will happen. So to return to the main point, especially when there are multiple cats, the number and location of litter boxes is really of critical importance. The last point regarding litter boxes and their maintenance, I'm sure that it's information that you all know, but it's important to re-emphasize it. The box should be scooped minimally twice daily, and the box should be completely dumped every 5 to 7 days. Regarding boxes and litter, the preference is for open, not covered boxes and unscented clumping litter. However, as the expression goes, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. In other words, if your system is working, don't change it just because of what I said. One final comment about the 3 basic resources. If we are adding a new resource or replacing an old one, sometimes it is a good idea, if possible, to place the new resource, in other words, a food dish or a litter box, alongside the old resource and let the cat choose if they want to use it or not. Okay, let's move on. Cat's Bill of Rights, number 4, freedom to move about. It sounds so simple, but it's not really so simple. Cats are territorial, and the more cats that you have in a small space, the greater the likelihood of conflict. Just a reminder of what I described a moment earlier about our cat, Miss Hoppy. She was not free to move about. One other story about the issue of freedom to move about. Many years ago, we had 2 clients, a young couple, with about a dozen cats. They lived in a very large old apartment in Kew Gardens, and at this time, 3 of their cats were taking anti-anxiety medications that I had prescribed. They then moved to Florida on a trial basis for a period of 6 months. Their apartment in Florida was nearly 50% bigger than their already large apartment in Kew Gardens. Within 2 months of living in their larger space in Florida, they were able to stop the anti-anxiety medications for all 3 cats. However, unfortunately, within 6 weeks of their return to Kew Gardens, all 3 cats were back on medication. True story. So how do we deal with the problem of freedom to move about? We live in New York City. We live in a vertical world, correct? The solution is to use vertical space. Cats love to climb, rest, and hide in high places. So go out and get yourself a floor-to-ceiling cat treehouse. And if by chance you already have one, get a second one. It is the best gift you can give your cats. If I've convinced just 6 people tonight to get cat tree houses for their cats, then I would consider this evening a great success. Okay, Cat's Bill of Rights, number 5, human-cat social interactions. Play with your cat at least twice daily. Don't just toss your cat a few toys and go off and do your own thing. Your cat wants and needs to interact with you. It's of crucial import in enhancing your relationship with your cat. About 10 years ago, a Canadian veterinary behaviorist did a wonderful and fun study of what were the best toys to engage cats for a 10-minute play period. What he quickly found out, and what he should have known, is that most cats won't play for 10 minutes. He revised the play period to 5 minutes, and this is what the results were. A little drum roll, please. The number 1 toy was a woman's scrunchie with a shoelace attached. Just a plain old tease toy. Then the veterinarian did a very clever thing. He redid the study and compared new versus used scrunchies. And guess what won? Yeah, why? Right, exactly. Cats like used scrunchies because the owner's scent is on them. Let's look at the other toys that were on this list. Okay, so 1 is the scrunchie. Number 2 is a cat treat ball. Wonderful, wonderful toy. Don't just indulge your cats and give them treats. They need to work for it. Put the toy in the treat ball. Put the treat in the cat treat ball. Yes, I got it right. And throw it. Make your cat run after it. Put it on top of the cat tree house. Don't just give them treats. They need to work at it. Catnip mouse. Can't beat that. Feather on a stick is just another tease toy. Next slide. A new hair scrunchie like we spoke about. Paper ball. Number 7 is a sticky ball with feathers. And number 8 is a cat track toy. A couple of points I want to make about it. Nearly all the toys on this list are interactive. I'll beat you over the head until you understand this. You need to be involved with your cat's play. Nearly all the toys on this list are inexpensive. You don't need to invest lots of dollars to play with your cats. The area I was disappointed is I have 2 other favorite toys that didn't make the top 8 of this list. Number 1, laser light. Great toy, interactive. Makes your cat move around a lot. You can't beat it. And number 2, don't forget ping pong balls. Okay, my favorite source of toys for cats is, Liz, tell me what? Bingo, yes. Okay, they carry a great variety and assortment of inexpensive toys. Every year before the holidays, guess who? Liz, our head technician, coordinates a huge order of toys for each of our employees' cats and for our office cats, and she orders from the Mouse Factory. So at holiday times, do not forget your cats. Get them toys. They deserve it. It's obvious but needs to be said again. Your cat should be brushed or combed at least twice daily. It is good for their coats, and once again, it is good for your relationship with your cat. Many years ago, my wife is here, but I'm confessing, I had a girlfriend who had 3 or 4 cats. Very early in our relationship, she told me about a cat of hers that loved being vacuumed. Being a skeptic, I thought she might be pulling my leg. I was tempted to bet against her, but I did exercise some caution and just said, show it to me. A few days later, I was at her apartment, and we all know what most cats do when we take out the vacuum. They run for cover. This cat did not. It arched its back, did a dance on its rear legs, and basically said, vacuum me. And for me, seeing is believing. So sometimes you do need to think outside the box. And if your cat is not afraid of a vacuum, try it. And here is living proof. Thank goodness for the internet. Is this cat in heaven or is this cat in heaven? Okay. Okay. A few last comments about playing with your cats. There is a debate as to whether cat toys should be left out at all times or taken out only at playtimes and then put away so that they are fresh and not stale at playtime. If your cat is innovative or creative and it will play alone or bring toys to you, then by all means leave the toys out. Otherwise, put the toys away and take them out at playtime only. I'm now going to show you videos of 2 unusual and creative cats. I'm showing you these videos, number 1, because I can get oohs and ahs out of you that way. And number 2, even though these cats are exceptional, certainly in the second case, with just a little help from the owners, some cats can be very creative. There's a brief story behind the first video. A family went away for a summer and had a cat sitter come in daily and take care of their cat. Clearly, this cat must have been bored because it had minimal interactions with people for 2 months. So this clever cat found a way to entertain himself. And when the family returned after the summer, all seemed well until they got their water bill, which was significantly higher than normal. They found no evidence of major flooding or leaks, and finally they decided to set up a video camera in the bathroom. And this is what they found. Just watch. I knew I'd get you to laugh.
Very creative.
Exactly.
Very creative.
Exactly. Okay, enough of that. We have one more wonderful video. The video is of a Japanese cat called Maru. And there are lots more videos of him on YouTube. But here is a brief selection. Okay, what happens when cats get stuck inside of things? They usually freak out. This cat is very calm. He's exploring his environment without seeing. This is a creative, amazing cat. Just watch what he does. He's not fazed by this at all. Okay, he's now taking it off, and he's calm as can be. There he goes. And again. And again. That's quite a jump when you look at it. And watch this one now. And he comes out. Maru's wonderful. Okay, he loves boxes. You think he can fit in there? Just watch him. Come on, that's pretty good. This is even better. Look at the size of the box.
They managed to get the strangest places.
Maru fits into any box. Watch this. This is great. He's He's just calm as can be. Look at him laying there. Okay, anyway, if you love Maru, there are many more videos on YouTube. Okay, one obvious point after looking at Maru is don't be so fast in tossing boxes into recycling. Leave them around for cats to play with. Recently, we've begun using what's called perch, hide, and go boxes in our office cages for some cats. And this is what they are. There's a hiding place down at the bottom. There's a perch up on top where they can sit and watch what's going on. And these also can be folded into cat carriers. It's the Vancouver SPCA. Do we have the website on there? I think it's on our resource list if you look on the handouts. They're really useful things. Okay, they're also important because these are things what I spoke about before. Cats need hiding places. They need perches where they are up high and can see things. Cat's Bill of Rights, number 6. We're moving on. Audio, visual, and olfactory stimuli. Okay, audio stimuli. If you're leaving your cat home for an extended period of time, leave your radio on so your cat will have some auditory stimulation, preferably some quiet type of music or an all-news radio station. Visual stimuli. We spoke earlier about a fish tank, either real or fake, as being good for your cat. A comfy cat perch near a window, especially with a bird feeder outside, is an all-time favorite of cats. Cat perches, another thing you should get for your cats. There are videos for sale for your cat to watch on TV. You can find them on the internet. And they do work very well for a select group of cats. Again, especially if their owners will sit down and watch with their cats. Olfactory stimuli, this is about a cat's sense of smell. We all know that in nature, cats rely very heavily on their sense of smell and that we need to stimulate this sense in our indoor cats. 3 suggestions. The most obvious is catnip. Not all cats respond to catnip, but the vast majority of cats do respond to it. You can rub it on their scratching post to encourage their use of the post. You can rub it on their toys, or just let them play and roll in it. My all-time favorite catnip is cosmic catnip. A behaviorist by the name of Carol Wilburn, whom we occasionally consult with, when she sends us a follow-up report, she always includes some cosmic catnip in it for our office cats. And if by chance I don't open my mail promptly, some of our cats will open my mail for me and just help themselves. Number 2, I've heard that the herb valerian has a pleasant and stimulating smell for cats. Try it, and actually, since I have no personal experience with it, I'd greatly appreciate any feedback if you would let me know, good, bad, or indifferent. Lastly is a product called Feel-Away. Feel-Away contains a pheromone. A pheromone is a chemical secreted by cats that causes a specific response when detected by other cats. Cats produce this pheromone in their skin glands, especially on their face. So when a cat rubs its face against your face, arm, or leg, or against any vertical object in your home, it's marking you or the object with a pheromone. Feel-Away contains a pheromone that is very useful to help calm and relax cats, especially in multiple cat households. It comes in a plug-in form over here or in a spray. Okay, Cat's Bill of Rights, number 7. Okay, scratching post. This is a no-brainer. All cats need scratching posts. They use them to sharpen their claws, to remove old nail casings. Cats also use scratching posts to stretch when they wake up. So the post needs to be near where the cat sleeps or in a place where the cat spends most of its time. If you place a post in the basement and the cat spends most of its time in the living room or in the kitchen, it ain't going to work. It needs to be readily accessible. There are vertical, horizontal, and I've recently seen diagonal scratching posts. Okay, the posts need to be sturdy, otherwise many cats won't use them. You can rub catnip on them to encourage your cat to use it. Scratching posts made of carpet, or if sisal, which is a fabric that cats really seem to like, are the favorites. For horizontal posts, corrugated cardboard works best. Lastly, the ultimate in environmental enrichment can be found in a book called The Cat's House by Bob Walker. The man is a designer genius. I don't expect each of you to go out and duplicate his phenomenal work. But Mr. Walker has a website with many suggestions on it on a much smaller scale that just might work in your house. Isn't it incredible? I stated earlier in my talk that environmental enrichment can make your cat healthier, and now I'd like to show you some recent evidence that this is really the case. Hopefully we all know about lower urinary tract disease. It's also known as FUS or cystitis. But to be certain that we're all on the same page here, please allow me to briefly review this disease for you. This disease occurs both in male and female cats of any age. However, most often it occurs in young and middle-aged cats. The signs of this disease are painful and difficult urination, frequent urination, and bloody urine. In other words, if your cat's life suddenly becomes focused on the litter box, your cat probably has lower urinary tract disease. There is one major important complication of this disease called urinary obstruction. This occurs when a plug of crystals or stones blocks the urethra, that is the tube leading from the bladder to the penis, and no urine is coming out. Let me make this very, very clear. I'm not discussing this complication now. This is a life-threatening emergency. If you suspect your cat cannot eliminate any urine, please call your cat's veterinarian and make an appointment ASAP for the very same day. You don't waste time with this. Most cases of lower urinary tract disease in cats, believe it or not, are what we call idiopathic. That means we don't know the cause of them. If we take 100 cats that come into any veterinarian's office and we figure out what the causes are of lower urinary tract disease, this is what we come up with. The lowest number is 2%, and that's bacterial infection. That's infection over here. That means that only 2 out of 100 cats that have lower urinary tract disease really have infection. Most of them do not have infection. We have clients coming in all the time asking for antibiotics for their cat for this condition. They don't need them, they don't work, they don't have infection. Next, behavioral problems. All the behavioral issues that I've alluded to so far this evening, in and of themselves, can cause cats to have lower urinary tract disease. But this is a subject for another discussion. 10% of the cats have urinary obstruction. They come in because they can't urinate. And again, this is an emergency. Next, 15% of the cats that come in with lower urinary tract disease have bladder stones. Okay? The problem is that leaves us with 65% of the cats that we don't know what's causing the problem. And that's a serious issue. What happens to these 65% of the cats, listen carefully, most of them will resolve on their own within a period of about 10 to 12 days. This is a self-limiting disease in most cases. The big problem is the problem comes back again and again and again. Okay, so what do we do in treatment of lower urinary tract disease? We don't have any cures for it because we don't know what's causing it. Antibiotics don't cure it. You give your cat antibiotics and it gets better in a week or 10 days. A lot of the time it's not getting better from the antibiotics. It's getting better because a lot of times it gets better because it's getting better on its own. So we have no direct treatment available. Okay, so we need to work on prevention. One obvious thing, which we've been talking about for years, these cats need to eat canned cat food only. Dry cat food to these cats is poison. It raises the incidence of lower urinary tract disease. But what's new is environmental enrichment. Everything I've spoken about for the last half hour, this will help your cat if it has recurrence of lower urinary tract disease. Okay, there was a study done at The Ohio State University. They took 46 cats. All of these cats had a history of lower urinary tract disease. And in the prior 10 months, they had minimally 2 to 5 episodes. So again, the problem recurs and recurs and recurs. What they then did is they gave suggestions to the owners of these 46 cats what to do to try and prevent this from coming back. They told them about diet changes, and they told them about environmental enrichment. And they let the owners choose the environmental enrichment methods that they thought would work best in their house. And they followed these cats for 10 months. Let's see the results. The results, at the end of the study, 75% of these cats that had histories of chronic recurring lower urinary tract disease did not have recurrence of symptoms. This stuff works. It really, really does. Okay, I'm not going to read through this again. This is what I've talked about all evening. These are the various forms of environmental enrichment that were used by the owners to improve their household environment for their cats. Okay, this is fascinating. Other benefits of environmental enrichment from the study. 2 points. Significant reduction in fearfulness, nervousness, which makes sense. If you interact with your cat more, if you use vertical space more, your cat will be less nervous. But there's a lower incidence of upper respiratory signs. The main cause of upper respiratory disease in cats is feline herpes virus. And once a herpes virus is in a cat's body or a human's body, it's there forever. And the stimulus for recurrence of herpes virus is stress. So if we lower the stress levels by environmental enrichment, adding canned food doesn't lower stress levels. But if we lower stress levels by environmental enrichment, we get less upper respiratory disease. Very, very important point. Second point, there's a trend towards reduction in aggressiveness and lower intestinal signs of diarrhea and constipation. Again, reduction in aggressiveness makes sense. We're trying to make the environment more friendly for the cats. But the decrease in lower intestinal signs of diarrhea and constipation are a very important observation. People, cats, dogs, other animals get diarrhea when they're stressed. There are thousands of causes of diarrhea, but stress will induce diarrhea. We all know this from ourselves. The second point, constipation, is very interesting. I spent a lot of time talking about cats going to and from the litter box and how they can be blocked. Just imagine a cat that's being blocked from its litter box. They hold it in, they don't go to the bathroom until they become constipated sometimes, or they don't go often enough, and this produces changes in their colon. Last item. We're finishing up now. On page 2 of your handout sheet is entitled Household Resources Checklist. Fill it out, and in areas that your household is deficient, please follow up and do something about it. For your cat's sake, they need your help and they deserve it. Thank you for your attention. Just a couple of thanks I need to say before I'd be glad to answer some questions. Firstly, I'd like to thank the church for their hospitality. I'm not so happy about not being let in, but that's history right now. I would also like to thank Matt, my electronics guru, and without his help, this event wouldn't have happened. And we also need to thank Naomi, because she brought in the projector. We need to thank her. I'd like to thank my family, as always, for being around to support all my endeavors and ventures. I can never thank all of you enough. I especially want to thank my daughter, Sariel. Sariel designed the handout, the flyer. That's what she designed, the flyer. Lastly, I'd like to thank my employees. Number one, for showing up tonight. This is their own decision. They were not forced to show up. But more importantly, I'd like to thank them for continuing to teach me about cat behavior. They spend much more time than I do with our cats. And I just wanted to say thank you for all of your input about cats every single day. I appreciate it.